Okay, guys, so before we move on with our Thursday's lesson, we just want to review everything we've covered so far this week. And if you are watching this video or you are in my live, then that means that you have done your standard notes. You've written down your standard template, which shows you how to take standard notes and describes what every box means. You have also taken standard notes on RL.6.3. You know that the focus for this week is characterization. We want to be able to identify and explain how characters change and respond. We also want to be able to supply text evidence to support our analysis of how characters change and respond. Okay, so those are our goals, to be able to point out how characters change, how they respond, and to be able to give text evidence for both. All right. Now, if you're watching this video, you have also done your characterization exercise and you have watched me model applying our characterization skill to the Tom and Jerry video. You applied it to Jerry's game. So you should know by now that there are two types of characterization, direct and indirect. Remember that direct characterization tells us, you are directly told about the character, and indirect characterization shows us. So for indirect characterization, that's the one we've got to use our brains for, right? We've got to think, because we're going to have to make inferences based on everything that we read, everything that we see as we read, okay? But remember, direct characterization, there is no inference to be made. You simply read what the author states or says to the reader, or what the narrator tells us, and we know about the character. For indirect characterization, we use the acronym STEAL to help us know what to look for. But remember that just because we use those letters, S for speech, T for thoughts, E for effect on others, A for actions, and L for looks, that doesn't mean that you will always have all of those. That STEAL acronym is just your guide. Also, what you have seen is that you will not always have direct characterization, which is why I strategically used Tom and Jerry and Jerry's game, because there was no direct characterization. You had to pay attention to all of the fine details to understand those characters. All right, so that's our review. So if you are here, you have done this part and we don't need to go through this. You have also submitted your assignment. Make sure that you used my graphic organizer for submitting that assignment. Now, today, guys, we are going to apply the skill. So we're going to start reading our very first short story together. We are reading Everyday Use by Alice Walker. These same slides are in Schoology, titled Thursday Slides. So as we read today, we're going to do what's called a close read. So most times when we read, we will do a close read. Close reading simply means that you take your time to dissect what you're reading. And when we're reading something short, like a short story, we always read more than one time. I modeled that for you even with Tom and Jerry. Remember, in the video, I told you that that was not my first time watching the Tom and Jerry video. It was like my second or third time watching it. And I asked you to do the same with Jerry's game. I did not want you to do your work on the first watch. I wanted you to do your work on your second watch. And if you needed a third watch, that was fine as well. The point behind that is that I want you to see that every time you watch something or every time you read something, you always see something that you did not see the first time or that you did not see the second time. Like, think about your favorite movie, how you might be able to quote lines from it, but you know how sometimes you'll watch it and you're like, wow, I didn't see that the first time, or I've never noticed that. So it's the same thing when we're reading. Every time we read, we see something different. So we are going to do our read number 1 for everyday use. So I have a few instructions for you here. So the first thing that I want you to do is to prepare to read. And so if you have not done this already, I need for you to download PDF Cabinet. I know that download might take a while. So if you haven't downloaded it, we're not going to bother with trying to download it. Well, you can get it started, but we're not going to bother with waiting for it to download, okay? And so on the screen are the instructions for PDF cabinet, okay? So it tells you how to use PDF cabinet. So if you have PDF cabinet downloaded, you're going to open the PDF from Schoology. It's already in Schoology. If you don't see it, please do let me know. You should see it. I'm going to double check very quickly just to make sure you can see it. So my students who are in the live with me, you need to navigate to the PDF for everyday use. I'm going to make sure I have it in the first period folder. Yes, it's there. All right, so my live kids, remember, if you have a question that is relevant to what we're talking about right now, remember to say that openly. So if you have PDF cabinet, go to the PDF in Schoology, click on it, and then click the box with the arrow in the top right corner of the screen, scroll and click copy to cabinet, and open the PDF in PDF cabinet. Now, if you do not have PDF cabinet, that's fine. You can open the PDF in your files. So you would simply open the PDF from the Schoology folder, click the box with the arrow in the top right corner of the screen, and you will choose Save to Files, and then save it to your files. Now, I know most of you have not organized your files, so you can't watch it right now, but I have a screen recording right here in the bottom corner of these slides that shows you how to organize your Files app. And you do need your Files app organized just like we organize our Google Drive. So go back to Thursday's slides when you have a chance and watch that video if you don't know how to organize your files. All right, so everyone should have the PDF opened. And I just want to give you a little bit of background about what we're about to read. So if you've never read Everyday Use, just know that Everyday Use is written by Alice Walker, who is an African-American female writer. Alice Walker wrote Everyday Use in 1973, and this story is one of her most popular stories that you can find in a lot of literature anthologies. An anthology is just a collection of writing. And so when you go to college, you'll probably see this in your college textbook. So it's a story that just can be taught in a lot of different grade levels. The different grade levels talk about some more advanced things as you go up. For our particular study, we're studying the characters because remember, we're talking about characterization. The story is set in the 1960s in the South, and we are reading the story of Mama. That's her name. That's all we're told, to call her Mama, and Mama's two daughters. Okay. Dee and Maggie. And so our big idea for reading, every time we read, we'll have a big idea. That's like the thing we want to focus on. And so the big idea for us is to think about what we value and the choices we make and how it shapes our identity. So remember that this relates to our unit because our whole unit is about family and tradition and how the world is changing and how can we be an individual and still fit in this and still honor and accept tradition from our family and our community. So remember, we did that quick write about tradition and can you pick and choose, and so all of this relates. All right, so let's talk about our close reading steps. So the first thing we're going to do is listen just to the audio version of the story. We're not going to do any highlighting. We're not going to take any notes. I'm not going to pause it. We're not going to stop at all. We're going to read straight through. And I had hoped that we would be able to do the second read, but it looks like we'll have to do reads 2 and 3 next week. And those reads are in Thursday's slides. Well, the second read is in Thursday's slides. I'm going to take that out so you won't be confused. I do not want you to do the second read without me, okay? Because it's going to be your first time annotating a text with me, and I want you to do it with me, all right? So let's keep going. So we've already gone through how to open the PDF, and if you did not get a chance, I know I didn't stay on that slide long, so if you did not get a chance to save the PDF, it's really fine because you're not writing or anything. I just want you to follow along in the story as we listen to the audio, okay? If a few words are different here and there, it's okay. It's not going to change the meaning of the story. We're just going to keep listening. So I'm going to go ahead and play the audio recording. My students who will be watching this screen recording after I post it, please do know that I am editing out the audio. YouTube will not post a video with the audio in it. So you will need to navigate to this week's slides to hear the audio. Remember, you just listen to the audio and follow along in the text.